Sarah thought finding a dying 130-pound black Cane Corso on a cold street corner was just bad timing. She was wrong. That massive, scarred dog collapsing at her feet wasn't an accident. It was destiny. And what happened 3 weeks later would prove that some souls are sent to us exactly when we need them most. It started on June 17th. Sarah was walking home from her late shift at the hospital, exhausted, barely keeping her eyes open. Then she saw him. A giant black Cane Corso, ribs showing through his scarred skin, one torn ear hanging at an odd angle, lying motionless near the park entrance. No collar, no tags, just a broken soul who'd clearly been on the streets for way too long. Most people would have crossed to the other side. This dog looked terrifying. 130 pounds of pure muscle, battle scars across his chest, the kind of dog neighbors would call too dangerous, too intimidating. But Sarah didn't see a monster. She saw pain.
And if you believe every soul deserves a second chance, hit that subscribe button right now, because stories like this need people like you. She knelt down slowly. "Hey, big guy," she whispered. "You look like you've been through hell." The Cane Corso's deep brown eyes opened just slightly, and then, instead of growling or running, he did something that shattered Sarah completely. He rested his massive, scarred head on her knee and closed his eyes, like he'd been waiting his entire life for someone to finally see him. Sarah made a choice that night that would change everything. She wrapped her jacket around him, called an emergency vet, and stayed by his side until help arrived. The vet said he was severely dehydrated, malnourished, and had infections from untreated wounds. "He's a fighter," the vet told her, "but he needs someone to fight for him now." Sarah named him Ace, because even broken souls deserve a second chance. But here's the thing about rescue dogs. They don't just take. They give back in ways you never expect. The first night Ace came home, Sarah set up a comfortable dog bed in the living room, far from her bedroom. She had boundaries. Ace was huge, intimidating, and she needed time to trust him completely. Except Ace had already made his own decision about where he belonged. At exactly 2:30 a.m., Sarah woke up to a sound, not barking, not whining, just the soft padding of enormous paws on hardwood floors. She sat up, heart pounding, and saw Ace's silhouette standing perfectly still in her bedroom doorway. "Ace," she whispered, "what's wrong, buddy?" He didn't move. He just stared at her with those deep, watchful eyes. Then, slowly, carefully, he walked to the side of her bed and laid down. Not on the bed, just beside it. Close enough to protect, far enough to respect. And that became his nightly ritual. Every single night at 2:30 a.m., Ace would leave his dog bed, walk to Sarah's room, and position himself like a 130-pound guardian angel who refused to leave her side. Sarah thought it was sweet, protective, maybe a little obsessive. She had no idea Ace was sensing something she couldn't see yet. 3 weeks after adopting Ace, Sarah woke up at 3:47 a.m. to the most terrifying sound she'd ever heard. Not Ace barking, worse, complete silence. She opened her eyes and froze. Ace was standing rigid at her bedroom door, every muscle in his massive frame locked tight, his lips pulled back in a silent snarl. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring down the dark hallway toward her front door. Then she heard it, the soft click of her doorknob turning. Someone was trying to break into her house. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She reached for her phone with shaking hands, but before she could dial, Ace moved. He didn't bark. He didn't hesitate. He just walked slowly, deliberately into the hallway and planted himself between Sarah and the intruder like a 130-pound living fortress. The door creaked open. A man's silhouette appeared in the darkness. And that's when Ace released the lowest, most primal growl Sarah had ever heard. It wasn't loud. It was deep, dangerous, the kind of sound that makes your survival instinct scream, "Run!" The intruder froze. In the dim globe of the streetlight, he saw what everyone else had seen. A massive black Cane Corso with scars that told stories of survival, a torn ear that proved he'd fought before, and eyes that said he would fight again. The man stumbled backward, scrambling out the door like his life depended on it, because it did. Ace stood perfectly still until the footsteps faded completely. Then, and only then, he turned back to Sarah, walked to her side, and pressed his scarred nose gently against her trembling hand. Sarah collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "You've been protecting me this whole time, haven't you? You knew. You always knew." The police arrived 20 minutes later. They told Sarah she was the fourth attempted break-in that month in her neighborhood. The suspect had been targeting women who lived alone. "If it weren't for your dog," the officer said, looking at Ace with newfound respect, "this could have ended very differently." That was 8 months ago. Ace still sleeps beside Sarah's bed every single night. He still wakes up at 2:30 a.m., checks every corner of the house, and returns to his post. Because some dogs don't just guard homes, they guard souls. Sarah found Ace on June 17th. She didn't realize until later that June 17th was the anniversary of the night her father passed away, the night she'd felt most alone in the world. Some people call it coincidence. Sarah called it fate. Because sometimes the most broken souls are sent to protect us when we need them most. And sometimes the dogs everyone calls too dangerous are actually guardian angels who've been through hell and came back stronger. Ace taught Sarah something she'll never forget. Love doesn't look soft. Sometimes it looks like scars. Sometimes it looks like standing guard when no one's watching. Sometimes it looks like a 130-pound black Cane Corso who refused to let the darkness win.